Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you're doing well. My name's Carl and I'm a TEFL teacher, that's an English as a foreign language teacher, and I'm the owner of this channel, Duolingo English Course. I like to help students pass exams. I've been lucky enough to work all around the world and I've been teaching English for 20 years, helping people get through various types of exams. And this video will help you to get through and get the highest mark that you can on the Duolingo English Test. If you like my video, please like it. And if you think that I could improve it in any way or tell me what you do like about it, please put that in the comments. I read all the comments and I reply to as many as I can. So thanks for joining in. This video today is about the task where you have to speak an answer to a question. Okay, so let's get to it. Okay, just to show you, this is an example of the task that you'll get. As you can see, there is the information at the top, speak your answer to the question below, and then it tells you the main sort of topic, in this case, talk about a hobby or activity, and then it gives you some subtopics. What is this? How long have you been doing it? Who do you do it with? And why is it important to you? First of all, I'm going to give you some information about this task and also give you some tips on how to improve your scores. And then afterwards, I'm going to give you some practice questions and I'm also going to give you some model answers. So keep listening. So some things to know about this task. Very simply, you read a question, then you speak the answer. So obviously this is a bit different from normal conversation where you would probably listen to a question and then speak it. In this task, they're asking you to read the question and then speak the answer. You have 20 seconds to prepare the answer, so think in your head. Okay, that's my recommendation to you because obviously the test is done on the computer. So if you start looking with pens and paper, it's not really good for the test and you run the risk of being disqualified from the test. So just think about the answer in your head. The question will stay on the screen while you're speaking. And I really recommend that you cover the sub questions and don't go too far away from these sub questions. Why? Because they will help you to cover different types of grammar and also different types of vocabulary that will lift your score. So you've got to speak for at least 30 seconds, but I really recommend anyone aiming for a high score that you try to aim for 80. Not for 90, try and aim for 80. Now, why do I say don't go all the way to 90? The reason being, you might speak for too long and you might get cut off by the program. Also, the longer you speak, sometimes you can lose your fluency, which is one of the criteria that you get graded on. It happens 2 times in the test, and it helps the conversation and production scores. So if you feel that this is the type of score that you're having the most trouble with, then definitely concentrate on a task like this because it can lift the conversation and the production scores. So, how is it scored? So this is taken from the Duolingo English Test official website, and it gives you some information about the different ways the computer and the human examiners, they're called human proctors, but they're examiners, would mark your test. So first of all, they look at the correctness of your grammar. So that's how accurate your grammar is. So checking that your verb endings are correct, for example. The variety and level of your grammar, grammatical complexity. So in English, we have lots of different past tense, for example. There's the past perfect, there's the past simple, there's the past continuous. Using different variety of tenses and not just you sticking to one would mean that your grade would be higher because you would have a wider range of grammatical complexity. The level of vocabulary used in terms of lexical sophistication. So obviously if you're describing something that's quite not small, the opposite of small, if you're describing that, you could say big, but it's not the most sort of sophisticated of ways describing it. You could use ginormous, enormous, large, gigantic. So using a wider range of vocabulary that is less used in English, less commonly used, will help you here with your lexical sophistication. Also, the variety of word choice in terms of lexical diversity. So this is sort of talking about different topics. Can you try and just talk about slightly different subgenres of the main question you've been given? That's why it's important to stick to the sub questions, because that will help you to improve this lexical diversity score. How well you answer the question that was asked in terms of task relevance. So they're asking you a particular question and then some particular sub questions. Answer them, because it will help you to increase your grade because you're answering the question. How much you can say or write in a limited time. So obviously this is a spoken task. So it's talking about not just the quantity of words, but the number of ideas, and also how those ideas are explained well. So it's not really a question of getting in as many words and sentences as you can in the 80 seconds. It also involves explaining them well and linking them well and using a wide sort of range of ideas about this question you've been given. The pronunciation and pace. So acoustic features. So in English we use a different sort of pitch to some languages, where we go up and then we go down. We go up and then we go down. We also stress certain syllables and also certain words within a sentence. Duolingo English Test listens out for this. So that's why it's important to try and use the correct English pronunciation and use the correct English features. Also, be careful not to speak too quickly or too slowly. If you speak too quickly, it becomes quite hard for you people to understand what you're saying. But also, if you speak quite slowly, it's not really natural and you'll get graded down for this. So, how to improve your score on this task? So, accuracy in your grammar, as I explained. So this would involve aspects such as having the correct verb endings, in terms of pronunciation, because for example past simple is pronounced with a d or a t or an id sound. Also having plurals here, so making sure that you don't forget the plural s on some nouns, the correct articles, and also the correct subject verb agreement. So for example, he says, I say, this kind of thing, having the correct verb that matches the subject. Variety of your grammar. So having, for example, some modal verbs in there, having a range of tenses, trying to speak a little bit about the past, the present and the future will help to improve this variety. The level and range of vocabulary. So being topic appropriate and also using less common words, but also using the correct form of vocabulary. So just to give you an example, happy is an adjective. Happiness is the noun. Happily is the adverb. So using the correct form of a word in the correct place would really benefit this score here. Relevant answers. So staying on topic, answering it and then explaining it. Don't just, if the question is talk about your favourite food. My favourite food is pizza. Next bit. When do you have pizza? I have pizza on a Friday. Next bit. Who do you have pizza with? I have pizza with my friends. No, you got to explain a bit. Well, my favourite food is pizza. In fact, I quite often like a thin crust pizza from a well-known pizza chain or from a shop that's around the corner. So explaining it and giving information helps you there. Fluency. So quantity of words is one thing, but not having too little, but also not having too many, having the right amount for the speed of English. Also, the linking of ideas comes in under fluency here. Pronunciation and pace. So having the correct syllable. So in terms of the speaking the number of syllables that there are in a word. So for example, let's go back to happy. Happy, 2. Happily, 3 syllables. Having good English pitch and English rhythm and not speaking too fast. If you're nervous, sometimes you can speak too quickly. Most people are guilty of that. Make sure that's not you. So, some typical speaking problems that students might have when taking this test. Now, the first thing that I recommend you do is to research the typical problems your nationality has with English speaking. So, every different nationality when they're learning English has different issues. And a lot of this comes from their first language having an influence on the way that people speak a second or a third language. Okay, so that's why everybody's slightly different. An Italian speaker will have slightly different problems from a Spanish speaker. They will have quite different problems from a Vietnamese speaker or from a Chinese or a Russian speaker, for example. Here's some examples. So tonal languages, so these tend to be Asian languages. They often don't use the correct English pitch. So I know in Vietnam and when I lived in Thailand, the way that they spoke English was quite flat. They sort of talked a bit like a robot. They didn't have that natural going up and going down that we have in English. Some languages don't have plurals. So if you come from a language where you don't put an S onto the end of a noun, or you don't have some sort of marker, doesn't have to be an S, but some sort of marker to show that it's a plural. So some languages would, for example, say two cat, not two cats, and that's fine, obviously in your language, but it can't be done in English. You've got to make sure that you don't take what's from your first language and use it in English. Something else that I think you need to be aware of is, does your nationality speak quickly? Is it quite common for you to speak quickly to your friends in your first language? It happens quite a lot, I know, especially in South Asian countries. Are there some English sounds that aren't in your language? So Arabic doesn't have a p or a v sound. So when they come to speak English, they have trouble with these sounds. But there's also issues with nationalities add-in sounds. So Spanish speakers quite often add an E sound before they say English words. So I had a cup of coffee. Quite normal. Japanese speakers, they often add a vowel sound at the end of a word. So just something to be aware of. Understand what you are saying in what you're using in your own language. And Google and internet searches are your friends here. You'll really be able to find that out. There'll be lots of articles for your nationality, for your first language, telling you what the common problems are for when you speak English, and you need to be aware of those. So let's get on to some practice questions now. So, speak for 30 to 90 seconds about the topic below. I'm going to put the question up. I'm going to let you read it. Now, as I said, we're sort of aiming for about 80 seconds here. Okay, we don't really want to go on any longer than that. In the practice questions, I'm going to give you 60 seconds on the screen. If you feel like you can go longer, just pause it. Okay, but if you're having trouble getting to a minute and then getting to 80 seconds, it's worth practicing over and over again the same questions to see where you could add information to stretch it out. So here's the question that we're going to look at. Describe something you do that is boring. What is the activity? When do you do it? Where do you do it? And why is it boring? Okay, I'm just going to give you a few seconds here to think about it, and then I'm going to give you an 80-second answer. Okay, today I'm going to talk to you about something I do that is boring. It's something that happens to me quite often, especially when I have to travel, and that is getting on the local bus. I quite often get on the local bus to go to work in my nearest town, which is Belfast, and I have to get on this bus maybe twice a week. As I said, I usually do it twice a week. I used to do it on a Tuesday and a Thursday. In fact, I did it last Tuesday and last Thursday. It stopped during COVID times, but this is still something I have to do when I have to go work at the local college where I do some work. I take the bus at 8 a.m. and it gets me into Belfast around 9 a.m. Where do I do it? Obviously, I do it from my local town, and I walk to the local bus station, and then from there I get the bus into Belfast. Why is it boring? Because quite often you get stuck in traffic, and it can take quite a long time to get to where you want to go. It can also be quite boring because there's not really much to see. It's quite a boring road to go on. And in fact, last week I was sat on the bus and I realised just how bored it was because I couldn't even get any mobile phone reception. And I was looking out the window and I thought, this is a boring journey. Okay, so that was mine. You can see it's just a little bit more than 80 seconds, but that's fine. I hope you saw that I tried to get some past tenses in there. I don't think I got any future tenses in there, but I definitely got some present tenses in there. There was some overlap between the questions, and that's okay. But I stuck to all the questions that were there, and I answered them in time, and I explained all of them. Please listen to it again, and if you want to, write in the comments about what any phrases or any words that you took from it that you thought you think you could use in your own tasks. Okay, so here is another practice question coming on. This time I'm going to give you 20 seconds to think about it. Then I'm not going to give you the model answer until after you've had a chance to go. So after 20 seconds, I'll start a 60-second countdown, and I recommend you try and use it try and speak for the whole 60 seconds. Okay? Good luck. Okay, here's my model answer. The sport that I enjoy watching or doing is football. It's the sport that has been in my life for the longest because I started watching it when I was a little boy with my parents, and that's how long I've been watching it basically. So I've been watching it since I was about 6 years old, and so that makes it about 34 years that I've been watching it. I haven't actually been doing it for quite a while now because I'm getting a little bit older, but I'm still watch it as much as I can. When did I first watch it? That's an interesting question. I'm trying to think about that, and I think the first time I watched it live was when I was about 8 years old. I went to a match to watch Tottenham Hotspur versus Coventry, and it was a cup final, and my dad took it to me. My dad took me to it when I was about 8 years old. When will I watch it next? Well, unfortunately, my team, Tottenham Hotspur, lost last weekend. So I'm not sure I'm going to be watching next week because we're not doing very well at the moment. But I probably still will tune in. And I'm sure next week I will watch some football. Okay, here's another question for you. I'd like to talk about a book that I enjoyed. This book is called My World, and the author was a journalist called John Simpson. And it's basically a book about him telling the world about his history as a journalist in various parts around the world. He especially worked in many war zones and in many dangerous places. And he tells the story of what he saw and what he did there. So the main character was himself, John Simpson. As I said, he's a journalist. He's from the United Kingdom. He works for the BBC, and he started, I think, as a journalist when he was around 25 years old, and he still works as one today, where he's probably, or I don't know, in his late 60s. This book covers the first part of his career as a journalist. I first read it probably about 15 or 20 years ago, when I was traveling myself around various parts of the world, and I thought I wanted to read a book about someone who has managed to travel around lots of these places themselves. I really enjoyed it because I found it very interesting, and I learnt about many places around the world and the unfortunate things that some people go through. And I felt very lucky whilst reading it that I haven't had to go through any war zones and problems like this. Here's another one for you. Okay, I would like to tell you about a holiday that I went on with my wife after we got married to Brazil. We went to, actually, we didn't just go to Brazil. We were lucky enough to also go to New York on the way from London to Brazil. So we managed to stop in London, and then we flew to Brazil. We flew to we stopped in New York. Then we took the plane to Rio de Janeiro, and we stayed in Rio de Janeiro. And then we went across to Sao Paulo, and also to a fantastic place called Iguazu Falls. What did we do on this holiday? We sat on the beach for a bit, which was fantastic. We also saw some of the beautiful architecture that they have in Rio de Janeiro. In Sao Paulo, we were lucky enough to meet up with one of my friends who lives there. And in the place called Iguazu Falls, Foz de Iguaçu, I think is the Portuguese pronunciation, we managed to go to these beautiful and most amazing waterfalls I've ever seen in my life. As I said, I went with my wife. My wife is called Lynn, and we've been married about 7 years now. Yes, I loved the trip. The trip was fantastic. It was one of the best trips that I've ever been on. I've always wanted to go to Brazil and just to see it, and it was really good. I would love to go back there in the future, and I really hope I will. However, I thought that the food in Brazil wasn't very good, and that was one of the main problems that I had with going there. Okay, here's another question for you. 20 seconds to prepare now. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, I would like to talk about a plan I have for the future. And that plan is to do a PhD sometime in my field, which is concerning English grammar. So to do some sort of PhD would be fantastic. I've had the plan for around 10 years now, and I haven't even started it yet. So I have had the plan for quite a while. I probably even thought about it longer before that, but the actual plan of when to do it started about 10 years ago. So what I will do is try and get a university, a single university, to take me on and allow me to do some research. Hopefully in sort of the field of taking exams and how English grammar affects those exams. Before that though, I would need to do quite a lot in terms of preparing for it and also writing up a research proposal. So I still think I'm a way off from doing this. So it's not easy to say when I will do it, but hopefully I will start it within the next couple of years. It is quite difficult at the moment because I have lots of work on and I also have a family to look after. So I'm not actually sure if I will be able to do it anytime soon, but hopefully I'll be able to do it in the next couple of years. I will definitely do it if I can find someone like a supervisor to take me on at a university. So I definitely need to start getting my ideas in place and also start to get email into universities. I would say though I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to do it because it can be quite expensive and it can take a long time, but it is something that I definitely want to do in the future. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed listening to my answers. Now just remember, you don't have to have exactly the same answers at all. In fact, it's better that you use some sort of answers that you would come up with. It's always better in any sort of exam to speak about your own ideas and to speak about your own experience. So don't take ideas from other people. What is a good thing to do from this is to listen for some words or some phrases that you can pick out and maybe use. Also look at the structure and the pace that I'm speaking at. Hopefully you can see I wasn't speaking too quickly, but also I wasn't speaking too slowly. And I also used some phrases to link and to introduce that I was going on to the next question. I hope you saw that. Please put in the comments below what problems you have with this task, or if you find it easy, also please put it there. If you've got some other ideas for tasks you'd like me to talk about, I'd be more than happy to make a video. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all again soon. Bye.